give yourself grace period as well. Like, listen, like, I'm going through this. I'm going to give myself time to grieve. There's no, there's no like, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no expiry date with grief. One thing that got me thinking what you mentioned earlier about, you saying that you didn't want to sort of put like you had lost your parents in your bio because you don't want people to feel like to use it against you. But like that's a bit mad though. I mean, I feel like personally, anyone who's gonna stoop to a level of like weaponize someone's dead parents, then they clearly tapped. But like I kind of understand where you're coming from, because even me sometimes one insecurity I kind of had was like, I mean, as much as like, yeah, we're always open about talking about grief. And one thing I don't know how I react is if like somehow I come across something distasteful about my. I don't think it will happen, but I don't know. I'll probably be like quite pissed off. But it's like I was saying earlier, the nature of the internet is literally is toxic, man. Because like I said to you earlier, even with the girl, if people can come for people simply like grieving, expressing their grief, then there's not, then they can say anything. And even just not to kind of touch on this too much, but it reminds me of when there was a time like literally like a lot of people, like old tweets are resurfacing from people like from back in the day, and there was literally like it was like I call it like an exodus of literally of just people being exposed and stuff. And yeah, cool. I understand people people say things, make mistakes, all that kind of stuff, and people can for the most part in some cases change and stuff. But I think like with anything there's always a line though, like and I remember it was I think Nelly Rose was kind of like in the firing line.
I know what you're about to say. Yeah, that's actually what got me. As well.
Like, I mean,
because
like that, yeah. And the thing is, I think what was even crazy, I think someone said, oh, like I don't even want to repeat it, but just someone said something very distasteful about, because she lost her parents, but I think particularly about her mum. And I'm just thinking like, you see, at that level, like at that point, I'll just stop being a bigger person, because now it's like, cool, I understand I've done something wrong, but you telling me, I don't know, it's mad. Like how are you gonna resolve an issue by stooping to that level? Like the bar is low, but it's like I'm thinking you're no better than me then, because like if you look, you can crucify me for something that I've done, but then why would you bring someone's dead parents into it that they can't defend themselves? It's a bit, I don't know, man. It's vile, man. Like it's actually mad, and I don't understand why people like, yeah, why people move like that, because that's just crazy personally, man. I don't know.
It's like to strike where it hurts the most, and that's why watching all of that go down, and also some other stuff I've seen over the years, is what made me think I'm not going to mention it in my bio. I really wanted to, but I just thought, let me just play it safe. If I make tweets every so often and I notice one particular tweet, someone decides to start doing negativity, at least I can delete the tweet or block the person. But yeah, I don't know what it is that people think it's okay to mention dead relatives by name or use them as an attack against you. It's always more pain. It's very, very low. Extremely.
Yeah, like, it's mad. Like it's mad. But like, speaking of like parents, and I know like, it's still quite an early journey for you in terms of your grief. And and again, from what I've like seen, your tweets and stuff, you've been very like transparent. But just talk us through a bit about your story with loss, and how you were during, through everything that's happened, and how you are sort of now, like mentally.
So my mum died in hospital in March. Before she died, I got a phone call from the hospital telling me that she had been taken to the intensive care unit, that things had gone wrong, which took me totally by surprise and took my dad by surprise as well. When she had gone in, she was ill enough to be admitted, but she wasn't so sick that she needed ICU. So the last 24 hours of her life was very difficult. Dad and I didn't really know what to do. We just called everyone that we could think of, and mum kept bouncing in between really not being okay to still being critically ill but improving somewhat. And then in the last few hours before she died, she completely deteriorated, and then that's when the doctors told us that there was really nothing more that they could do for her. It felt very weird for me leaving her hospital bed. It felt, in my mind, I kept thinking, I can't leave mum here. I can't leave her alone. But she was gone, and I couldn't admit it to myself. Walking out of that hospital was horrible. After we had said our goodbyes, it was so awful. My dad and I walked out in absolute silence. We didn't talk on the way back home. I was devastated. He was devastated. My sister wasn't with us at the time, so we had to go and tell her, which was also very, very hard. And so when it was just my mum that had passed away, I was very close to my mum. I still class her as my best friend because she really was. I spoke to her about everything. So losing such a person was extremely difficult for me. I became very withdrawn at that time. A lot of people wanted to see me, but I just didn't really want to see them. I would go to 1 or 2 occasions, but for the most part, I just stuck with work and home. I did become closer to my dad in that time, and I think that was something helpful for the both of us. Like, we would talk together more. I was very open with him about my emotions, which is, not something you normally do with an African dad, but I was very, very open with him about how I was feeling, and he was very receptive to that, which was quite touching. But yeah, I really, really struggled around that time. And I was also helping my dad to plan what was just meant to be mum's funeral, and that was very emotional as well. Having to do that whilst working was very traumatizing. And then my dad's death came out of nowhere. My dad wasn't sick before he died, but on the morning that he died, he woke up fine, but he was just experiencing some stomach issues. So he asked if I could help him make his breakfast. So I did. I had to leave to buy some stuff for my mum's funeral, but I didn't get to my destination because he wasn't picking up his phone. He wasn't responding to the doorbell when I asked my neighbor to come and see if he was okay. So I ran back home. When I got home, that's when I found him. And so the paramedics, we were already on the phone to the paramedics, and they tried their best, but he died here. They couldn't resuscitate him successfully. And with my mum, I broke down in tears, but with my dad, I was crying, but I was also very, very numb. Because I was so shocked with what had happened. I was literally walking around like a zombie for the first week after he died, because I was just like, I've already been through what I thought would be the worst thing that's ever happened to me, and then it's now happened again, less than 6 months apart. So I think a lot of people, when they saw me in between the time of my dad's death and my parents' funerals, they just commented on how numb I was. And I was using that numbness as a coping mechanism. It was only after that they were buried that I really allowed myself to feel everything. And so I became very emotional. I was always upset, always crying, still going to work, but just not functioning. It's taken me a while to reach some sort of point where I can admit, okay, I'm still not 100% there. It's still very fresh for me, but I can still do this. I can still do that. And when it comes to stuff that I can't do, I just have to be patient and kind to myself, because when I was being cruel to myself, I was punishing myself and making it worse. So I've had to learn to be kinder, which is not easy at all. But when you go through something like this has really changed me. I feel like life has already thrown hell at me. Why would I make it worse for myself by deliberately making it more painful? And so now I just try and do my best. When I wake up every morning, I'm just, let me function for today, and then I can worry about tomorrow when tomorrow comes. rather than thinking way into the future. I normally like to look towards the future, but now I really can't. I'm quite hesitant to now. So I'd rather just think about today and then think about tomorrow when tomorrow comes, and then think about bigger issues later on, just not stress myself really. I don't think I'm really there in terms of developing coping mechanisms outside of me releasing my thoughts on social media. I mean, I my friends are amazing. They always try and keep in contact with me and try and get me outside. But I've definitely, especially lately, I've definitely slipped into a withdrawal mood. And I think that's also with winter coming as well. I'd rather just be alone. And I know that's not, but I also know that it's something I need right now, because if I try and force myself to be social, I end up crashing. So I'd rather just admit I need to be alone and process everything, rather than trying to throw myself into things and distract myself from everything that's going on. Because I have found that when I try and do that, I could be at a dinner and I'll be thinking about my parents, or I'll be thinking about the nature of their death, which just is not something really good to be thinking about when you're out trying to have fun. So it's been an extreme learning curve, one that I haven't fully navigated myself around, one that I still feel like a rookie when it comes to it. That's why the way that I feel like the way I'm talking about this now is very chaotic, which basically matches how I feel like I'm coping with all of this. It feels like utter chaos, but I'm okay standing in the chaos for now, because it means I'm still here. I'm still healthy. I'm still alive. And that's the two good things I can take away from this, and that I want to do my parents proud. And so I will try, but I need some time. That's mainly what it is. I need time.
Yeah, like your level of self-awareness is amazing, man, because like, and I think that's what's key in terms of grief, is the understanding that just do what you can, and what you can't do is fine, step by step, and sometimes it's hard to acknowledge, you know, what you can or can't do. And I think from one thing I'm realizing is that, like, with grief, there's no, you gotta give yourself grace, man. You don't have to, if today you're fine, tomorrow, okay, I can't do that, it's fine. Like, step by step. And like, and the one thing you mentioned, standing in the chaos, like, is hard, but you're doing the best you can given the circumstances. And that's what, like, I'm sure, like, I'm not sure if you have had people tell you that, listen, you're doing just fine, but you're doing just fine, because like, it's not something that is hard, less than 6 months apart. Like, that's it, that's mad, like, it's a lot to deal with, like, as much as you know um like, losing both parents is a lot, but in within the same, that's a lot for anyone to take on, man. So like we always do here, just give people their flowers, and we just give you your flowers, man, because it's not to say that you can't be sad or like, but that right there, obviously that's a lot of strength. So just be easy on yourself, man, and I'm sure you are, but I'm just saying, like, honestly, is very commendable, man, because yeah, like, I don't know. I think, like, I thought, like, losing my parents a year apart was crazy. Like, and but just your level of self-awareness, that's something to admire, man. Really.
So when you lost both your parents, did you implement any practical ways of how you could deal with your grief, so like such as journaling or putting it into like writing? And as you said that earlier on.
Oh, so
Oh, is that sorry, you talking to me?
That was for Vanessa, yeah, the question.
oh, so my mum passed away. One of my friends got me a journal,
yeah,
specifically for her, and I did start to journal. I started to exercise a lot more as well. So I would go out for long walks. I was going to the gym more, just in some sort of way to distract myself. I went back to reading as well. I'm an avid reader, but I had kind of stopped for a little while. But I went back into it. I bought a lot more books after my mum died, just anything to escape from what reality was at the time. And the walks would help me process everything. Oh, I was going to the park a lot more as well, just sitting down there. I'd either have my book with me, or I'd be eating something over there, or just just chilling, but I was spending a lot of time to myself, or with my sister when she was around, or my dad. But I was mainly keeping to myself. I wasn't really trying to be out there, be sociable. When my dad died, I completely switched tacks. So I was still doing the exercise, I was still reading, but after they were buried, I found myself going out more because I was starting to use that now as a distraction, because I realized if I withdrew any more than I already had when it was just my mum that passed, I wouldn't be able to come back from it. So I thought, let me just, if people are inviting me out, let me go out. It's gonna look like a madness, and I hope no one comments on it. That's what I was thinking at the time. But I just thought, let me just live my life.
What?
Because
Sorry to interrupt. Do you mean like you started going out after they were buried, or you mean before your dad was buried?
after,
Okay.
so my parents were, what was meant to be my mum's funeral became mum and dad's funeral. So they were buried on the same day in the same plot. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So after their burial, because it was also in the same month, it was 2 days after my birthday that they were buried. So I didn't celebrate my birthday either. So I thought, in all of this madness that has happened, I'm still alive. I don't want to withdraw anymore. So let me go out and have some fun and try and move forward from the pain that I'm currently feeling right now. So I started to go out more. I started to go out more. I started to go out. I've never been out clubbing in London before up until now. So I started to do that as well. I was just having fun, just trying to enjoy what I could, just temporary distractions really. I knew that I wasn't going to keep it up forever, but I just thought, let me just try and see. And I did enjoy myself. And sometimes I was distracted enough that, for once I wasn't thinking about how crazy a year this has been or how much pain I was in. I could just focus on being in the moment. But then I started that when I was at some point when I was going out, I was still thinking about my losses. And then that's when I realized, okay, now I can withdraw because now it's not working as the distraction that I need. So I started to not go out as much after that. What didn't help was there was one night I went out with some colleagues, and the driver that was taking me to my destination actually lives in the same area as me. And he saw what had happened that day in terms of the private ambulance coming to take my dad away. And obviously no one knew who it was. So he was asking me if I knew, and I was like, yeah, that was my dad that you saw. And he was shocked. He spoke to my dad quite regularly. My dad was friendly towards him. So having a long conversation about my loss on the way to an event that I'm meant to be enjoying, that's what I think, that's what kicks it off in terms of me going out and not being distracted anymore.
Right.
Yeah, it was not very comfortable, but when it comes to death, people get so shocked. They obviously want to ask questions and understand what has happened. And I'm not going to penalize anyone for that, but it definitely affected me. So yeah, after that, I just went back to the reading and the exercising, mainly at home now though, because it's quite cold. But yeah, I went back to my original practical coping strategies.
Yeah, and do you feel like, I know like with a distraction, sometimes you said to yourself that, okay, let me just do this because it's a way of distracting myself. But do you feel like you're glad you went back to your original like method of coping?
I'd say yes and no, because whilst I was out, I did, because I wasn't going out as much, and even before my mum died, I really didn't go out that much. So I felt like I was kind of embracing who I'm meant to be as an adult, but there was also a very strong reason behind it as well. And so I'm glad that I recognized that I needed to take a step back. But I don't want it to be a forever step back. It's just, I want to be able to go out and not think, oh, I need this for a distraction. I want to go out because I genuinely
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to.
yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I was definitely using it as a distraction beforehand. I just did not want to be here at all because it was very painful being here. I mean, it still is, but it was extremely painful back then being home. But yeah, I would like to go out for the sake of being out and for the sake of being fun. Reconcile that with.
Did it cut out?
No, she's still there.
Oh
Oh,
no, no.
oh, sorry. Oh,
She's
sorry.
still there.
I thought the signal cut out or something. But yeah, I think I think that's good though, because like I said before, it goes back to, you know, your self-awareness, because like, you know, of course we all maybe had distractions that you know, that maybe sometimes, okay, this is not probably needed right now, but right now I just need a break, I need a distraction. But in the long term, you know, this might not be sustainable. So you have to get to that point of, you know, sitting with that grief, and that can be hard for them, because you just want it to kind of go away. So you kind of do anything to almost kind of like take your mind off it. And like I said earlier, sometimes the hardest thing with us is unpacking ourselves and being listened. Okay, look, I know something's up here. I know I'm doing this to help me cope, but I know in the long run, this ain't gonna be help. So it's like you have to make those painful decisions, but ultimately it might be painful now, but you know, in the long run, this is gonna be more of a benefit to your self-development, to your growth, because you know, grief is not gonna go away, but it's just about managing it better as time goes on, as time passes, you know. And it's hard work, man. Like it's hard work, and it's something you just feel like, oh, I don't even want to, like, I wish I can just check out from all of this, man. Like not in a way like, as in when I say check out, I don't mean like
I
as
know
in life. Yeah, I just mean more so like, just give me a break from all of I want a break from all this grief, because it's like, you wake up, it's still there. The next day, it's still there. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like you can book annual leave from grief and be like, yeah, okay, cool, I'm gonna take 2 weeks off.
I
Yeah.
could.
You know what I mean? Like it's just, yeah, it's just all consuming. But yeah, and I think it's good, man. And I think a lot of the time, you know, with grief, as you mentioned in a previous, I think you mentioned it quite a while ago. Like with grief, of course we miss the person, but it's the memories, it's the things we did with that person that also kind of hits hard as well, you know. Like and sometimes it's bittersweet, because the memories are, I'm grateful for the memories, that's what we have, like, but sometimes the memories hit bittersweet. Like I know you mentioned that you and your mum, like you know, you should bake together and things like that. Like
Yeah.
like did you ever, what other sort of things did you sort of both enjoy together, like when she was alive?
Um. So baking and cooking generally, we both really enjoyed doing together. I would always be in the kitchen with her whenever she was doing either of them. So when it comes to cooking, I really struggle to eat any other person's cooking, especially when it's gone in, because I'll taste it and I'll just be like, this doesn't taste like mum or dad's cooking. And I really, really miss them. They were really good cooks, so I miss their cooking. Or even making it myself. I can't bring myself to do it. I could do it with baking, because the first time I actually did it for something, for someone else. But doing it was definitely bittersweet, because I was thinking the last time that I did it with my mum was on Christmas Day. So it was bittersweet, not only thinking about the fact that she's not here, but also this Christmas I'm not going to be able to do that with her. And what else did we love doing? Oh, we did so many things together. Going shopping together, watching certain TV programs together. There were some programs that I've not gone back to since my mum passed. Actually, there was that I tried to watch. It's called The Good Doctor. Unfortunately, the episode.
Is it part of The Good Wife? Is it part of that series, The Good Wife?
The Good Doctor is adapted from a South Korean TV show by the same name.
Oh, okay.
Version. But my mom and I loved the program. I loved the original Korean program, and then when I saw that this one was coming, I was like, "Mom, we have to watch this." It also had one of our favorite actors in it, so we avidly watched it together. Sometimes she'll cheat on me and watch it by herself. Yeah, so I tried to watch it. I think a week after she died, and I remember talking to myself saying, "Oh my gosh, I've made a big mistake," because the episode featured a daughter losing her mum in the intensive care unit. I was like, oh my God. So I had to turn it off, and I still haven't gone back since. I catch up with it via social media, but I've not actually sat down to watch it. And that goes for a lot of other programs that Mum and I used to watch together, because I just get really sad thinking about the fact that I'm just watching it alone now. Yeah.
Yeah, like
that was kind of like a film that I was watching with my friend called Shang Chai. Like, I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like a Marvel film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was interesting because it did mention a bit about how the main character did lose someone personally. So in a way, it was a bit of a long history with family issues, and yeah, and like this, what it was interesting coming from like a film perspective, and I'm sure there's other films as well that talk about these issues as well. I'll probably say that's been a bit of an inspiration as well, as a film ad for them as well. You know, it's good to see that it's been, well, in a way, grief is being talked about in films in Hollywood, but obviously people will, I don't know, react differently to it depending on what they're feeling in the moment.
Yeah. What I noticed about loss in TV shows or films, it's often used as a background to someone, and then it doesn't get addressed again. So you know those stereotypical 90s camera sort of imagery of it's normally a mum as well, of a mum that has passed away, and it's just, you know, filming them in happier days at the beach or playing in the sand or something along those lines, and used to basically paint a picture of why someone is the way that they are, and then therefore how they move on from that. Not move forward, move on, as in literally like push it aside, and it's never really spoken about again. It's only lately with stuff that I've been seeing lately that grief is not just seen as a building block to someone, it's actually seen as how it sustains through life, because grief doesn't end with someone's burial, or when you reach a certain date, you're like, oh, I don't feel the loss anymore. I know it's very fresh for me, but I know from what other people have said is that doesn't happen. It's just you make space in your heart to encompass the loss that you've experienced, but you start to hold it in your heart a bit better than you would when it's very fresh. Whereas I felt like it wasn't really reflected for me in the TV programs or films that I watched growing up. But it's really reassuring hearing that. Actually, I haven't gone to watch it. I've been saying I'm gonna go watch it, but I just haven't gone to the cinema yet. But it's quite reassuring hearing that a big film like that is addressing loss in such a way.
Yeah. Like, it's I don't know. I think you're right though about films not really addressing loss. You know, properly. It's often like as much there's not the representation is there, but it's not explored in depth. Like it's not, you know, just something like you said, oh, you know, someone's like this because they, you know, this is why they like it because they lost their mum, and or okay, that's that, and then yeah, it's not really goes in deep. And I'm trying to even think of any like shows or films that really had a good take on grief. I think This Is Us is definitely a big one. But you have to focus on that. You have to watch that like with intensity, like to really understand how the grief is unraveling and how it's affecting each and every one person. So that's quite a good show. As in a show that focuses solely on grief. But I think that there are probably a few films and shows that do cover grief, but not in its entirety. Like in terms of that's the main plot of the film is something to do with grief. But I'm trying to think. I've watched. Do you know what? Yeah, this might be not random. I know I'll say this is entirely about grief, but I feel like Top Boy is one. You know, I don't know if you guys saw the new season.
I did not.
Like I feel like okay, I don't know if you're gonna say it, so I won't say too much to spoil it. But I feel like the main characters in Top Boy, it shows a bit about how they've come into their circumstance because they lost their parents, and you know it shows how like the older what do you call it? The older sibling kind of focusing on looking after the younger siblings because, you know, that's the role you kind of take on whenever. Usually it's kind of like tradition in terms of most cultures where, you know, as the older sibling, you're like the parent to younger siblings now. And often that can be a hard thing to deal with. That can be a hard thing to take on. But that's what usually happens, that you're now forced to be an adult. And you're not forced to now, like, not necessarily put your grief on hold, but you have to kind of like shift it a bit so that you can look after the younger siblings. So I feel like that was quite good in touching on that. Another scene in that series, News of the Top Boy, was, you know, when one of the brothers, like, you know, like he was meeting his girlfriend's parents for the first time, you know, and, you know, having the chat like, oh yeah, so what do you do? What do your parents do? And I was like, oh yeah, no, they're not alive. And then it's like, oh, it's a shock. And it's like when they hear like, oh, they're not alive, oh, they both like died together. It's like, oh wow, like it's even, you know, like, so things like that, I'm sure it's kind of like normal. Again, it's not, doesn't cover grief entirely, but I think that was quite a good little take on grief, you know. So yeah, I think and that's real as well.
Just to divert a little bit, that thing about telling people that your parents have gone, I don't know what it's like for you guys, but for me, it's very weird when people that I'm meeting for the first time ask me about my parents, and I feel like such a Debbie Downer when I do it, but I mean, I don't have a choice. Like when they ask about my parents or about my family, and I have to be like, oh yeah, no, my parents are no longer alive. And then they normally, when they hear that two people are gone, they assume that they've gone in one specific tragedy, and no, I have to specify they died separately. And it just be such a bummer because I don't want to be that person, but it happens when someone asks. So I've had to deal with that quite a few times, and it's always weird for me, and I don't know how to handle it properly. I just say it as it is. But it's definitely, even small stuff like that. Yeah, I don't even, the concept of meeting someone's parents and then having to tell them that yours are no longer here. I don't know. You just got to have a very supportive in-law family. If that's like you meeting your potential in-laws, that other side has got to be extremely supportive, because you'll feel the pain 10 times more if they're not.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and like, I feel like there's a element of nervousness when you have that conversation. Oh, but yeah, no, like, you know, because I've gone from almost just saying, oh, one parent's gone, and to the point of like, okay, now I just say, yeah, both parents are gone, but I say it with like a, not pride, but I say, yeah, no, you know, no need to do the whole, oh, sorry, no, yeah, I'm just letting you know, yeah, both parents. If you ask me, then of course I will say it, because that's the reality of it. And I think like, with you, because obviously you're still fresh, I can imagine might be still a bit triggering, but you know, but you're not being a Debbie Downer, because that's the reality of it. And if someone kind of makes you feel a bit, you know, worried about that, then that's clearly something wrong with them, not you. Do you know what I mean? Because essentially that's your life. You know, it's what is at present. So you know, you can't be a Debbie Downer about something that's true, that's happened to you. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. Yeah, people are just weird. I think people are weird with grief, man. Like, I know I can be a bit weird with it to an degree, but I think one thing over the years I've learned is understanding it a bit better now, and so I can now extend that same grace to other people who've been through stuff, and not make them feel a bit weird about certain things. But I feel like for the most part, as a society, we just don't really know how to deal with grief. But then it's so crazy. But it's like literally we can watch films or and about people dying, and it's normal because it's a film, right? But it's like it's still a reflection of society in to a degree, in it. Do you know what I mean? So I think, like, you know, conversations about grief often doesn't get. I feel like there definitely needs to be more of it, and less weirdness, and less kind of stigma. But that I mean, that just depends on the person, and who, and that's why it's important to have a community of people who can understand what you're going through, because you know, amongst them, you're not going to feel weird about the things you're saying, you know, or there's no like, oh wow, damn, you must have it really hard. You know, no one singles you out, you know, like, and I think it's important not to make anyone feel isolated, because it's already hard as it is. Okay, like, you know, being young and still, you know, needing your parents, like, you know, it doesn't, you never stop needing them. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's the onus is always on who we come across to like make it a bit easier for people. You know, don't make anyone feel weird about. You know, I know it's hard sometimes to kind of have um to talk about grief sometimes, but like, I think the only thing is treat them normally as you would, you know, if you didn't know any better, you know. So that's what I feel like would be best. But no, but it's been, but I do appreciate you coming on though. We do appreciate like um you just sharing stuff, because it's like I said, your self-awareness is admirable, man. And I feel like, you know, as you continue to like, whether it's a month from now, a year from now, you just continue to grow. And you know, like I'm not saying you do, but I feel like always ask for that support. But you seem like you've got a lot of good people around you, and that's always like good to see. Like, but I don't know. But we always saw this thing in the podcast where we ask people like, is there anything you want to like obviously plug or tell people about, anything that you're working on? No pressure if it's there's not much to share.
I am planning on doing something in the future, because I've realized that talking about grief has reached far more people than I ever would have expected. So I am considering some things. I haven't got anything concrete yet, but when I do, I'll let you guys know. But yeah, I definitely want to do something more, because there's a lot of people out there that are obviously going through what we have experienced, but invariably grief makes you end up feeling very lonely and isolated, when in reality you're not. So I want to continue to keep reaching out to people. I'm just trying to find the right avenue to do that. But yeah, I'll let you guys know.
I have what's the word? I have no doubt that will take off and do what it needs to do, man. You know, like I think that it's, and I think I almost want to say like thanks for sharing, because I know like with Twitter, like I mentioned earlier, like it's, well, you don't know where you're gonna get. You can tweet something with the most sincerity, but you have always that one person or a few people that will come and just do something or say something mad. But I feel like you sharing, you know, your story has kind of opened, of course, like raised awareness, and you know, just let people understand that, listen, like this is tough, man. Like grief doesn't, you know, has no um doesn't discriminate, you know, as much as we want to have our innocence in terms of, you know, we want our parents to live forever, and you know, and we hope that, you know, like it's not, their passing isn't like, you know, too soon, or but something. But in your case, you've understood that grief has happened to me like in quite a short space of time, like, one after the other, and that's a huge thing. So like, you know, it's good that you're still taking it easy on yourself. You know, but yeah, it's been a pleasure, man. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it as well. You guys are doing amazing things with this podcast, and I hope it continues to reach the people that need it, because I know there are people out there that just need to hear and know that they're not alone in all of this. So props to you guys.
No, thank you, man. And like we always say, like our doors are always open. Like, you know, we're always open for like more discussions in the future. So, you know, always like I know I reached out to you, but so I do appreciate, at the time it was you know, like it was kind of still a bit fresh. So thank you for still coming on. I know it's still fresh now. I can imagine it's still fresh now, but the fact that you were willing to come on and pair that takes a lot of strength. So appreciate that. And yeah, and hope those listeners hope you've taken some gems from it. Hope you've enjoyed. As always, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast,
Instagram,
Instagram. Instagram, we've just hit over 800 followers now. Again, a small little milestone, but we appreciate everyone that's been following, man. That really like rocking. Because I said to you, Vanessa, we started like a year ago, so it's crazy to see how much, like, you know, incremental growth we've had, and we just hope that a year from now we continue to do the same, have more conversations, and just keep doing more things. So for those of you who are not following, follow us on Instagram at @thinkingoutloud_. What else are we on? We're on TikTok as well, but that's a bit slow because I still don't understand the whole TikTok. I'm not gonna lie. I don't get.
I did not know how to use it before.
I'm a bit clueless. Like, I'm thinking, I feel like I need someone to kind of go through like a TikTok 101 or something, man. Just to show how do you do the special effects or what, like. You know what I mean? So we're on there as well. So I'll put that in the link. But it's just, there's not a lot on there. But just, yeah, I'm trying to still learning, you know, because in this social media age, like literally all these apps, man, like there's so many now. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, so yeah, but thank you, man. Thank you, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Nice talking to you, Vanessa. Yeah.
Nice talking to you.
All right, guys. You guys take care.
All right.
Jermaine, have a good